Then you end up finally becoming a business person in downtown Little Rock, but you were in North Little Rock for a while. You were working out of your car selling flags.
Yes. So even during all of that, I was ambitious. So unlike today, everybody was equal. The doctor lived. The doctor in the neighborhood, lived 4 houses down from us. A little bit nicer, but not a mansion in Chenal. The developer, the real estate developer, lived on the same street. The preacher, the Methodist preacher, lived on the same street. Our family lived there. We were all very middle class, and middle class back then was, not frivolous at all, So everybody was very conscientious, and, they're all World War II Depression people, so they're very conscientious. And so, Mother was going to save money in case something happened and do without so I could have something,
Yeah.
And so I think that really instills in you and in all of her 3 children to work hard so that your mother didn't have to not have a new pair of shoes or not get the new coat she wanted, or something like that. So I think we were all very ambitious from an early age. And so when I wasn't very good in school, which I was not, which is now we know is because everybody's dyslexic. A lot of people are dyslexic and stuff. So when I was not good in school and I went to a VOTEC school, I was wonderful at a VOTEC school.
Yeah.
It moves really slow. You do all the homework in class. You don't go, okay, go home and read that and come back and tell me about it. I can't do that. But I can read it in class, and I can be taught a different way. And so by the time you get through a VOTEC school and you end up being great at it, and then you come back, you're just ambitious. So I will say this, though. When I graduated from that VOTEC school, I thought I was going to go into fashion merchandising because I love clothes. If anybody ever knows me, they know that I am what do they call them, clothes horse? If I had a vice, which I have vices, but it is probably vanity. I love clothes and makeup and hair and fingernails.
Can confirm.
Shoes. So I went to school for that because my mother comes in so I tried to go to college, failed at college. Three months in there, working as hard as I could, D's. I came home with the tail between my legs. One of the most depressing times of my life. Just like they always say, it's in the darkest right before the dawn. My mother comes in because I had 17 magazines, I love clothes, and she comes in and she goes to the back and she says, honey, there's an ad in the back here for Miss Wade's Fashion Merchandising School. And you love clothes. You wear hats. I have so many pictures.
Who does that?
I mean, right.
Yeah, right.
You wear hats all the time, crazy hats all the time. And she says, why don't you, it's a 1-year VOTEC school. Why don't you go there? And I first thought, another school? Oh, my God, really? But they ponied up the money, and they sent me off to this VOTEC school. And the first week there, I called my boyfriend back home, and I started crying. I really never had boyfriends at all, but I did happen to have one at this time. And I called him at home, and I said, I can't do this. I'm so homesick. I'm crying. I'm at a phone booth, because that's what you had to do back then. He said, you need to stay. My mother said, you need to stay. I was like, I don't want to stay. It's too hard. I stayed, and at the end of the year, I was one of the best in the class.
Best decision you ever made.
Yes. Hardest and best thing I ever did. It's exactly like your parents keep telling you. It's just really hard. You just have to do it. But then I graduate in 1974. So I graduate high school in 72. I graduate from Miss Wade's VOTEC school in 74. When did we have the gas crisis with Jimmy Carter with the lines around the service stations?
Mid-'70s?
1974. Yeah. I couldn't get a job in my industry because what do you give up? Buying clothes and eating out.
Oh, yeah.
So I couldn't get a job in my industry at all. So I got a job selling flags for a company called Betsy Ross Flag Girls because I had to have a job.
Sure.
I wasn't going to go home. I have never not worked since I was 15. I mean, I worked at Kentucky Fried Chicken. I worked at Park Hill Theater. I mean, you just work. And so so I got this job with Betsy Ross Flag Girls, and I worked there 6 months. And my roommate, she left, and everybody was leaving, and I was left alone. I didn't have any friends left in Dallas, no boyfriend. And my mother, she's smart. She said, I wonder who sewn flags in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I said, I don't know. she said, well, why don't you make some phone calls and find out? So she taught me to use the phone. She said, call the Secretary of State and find out who they buy from. Well, they bought from somebody in California. She said, call these people and ask them. So I called them. They said, well, we buy from somebody in Mississippi. And then she said, and this is funny because I know this woman's grandkids. They live down the street from me. She said, call the only entrepreneur woman that I can think of in North Little Rock, Irma Dumas Dress Shop. It was like the best dress shop in North Little Rock. We could never buy clothes there. We sewed all of our clothes. Back then, a lot of people sewed. We sewed all of our clothes. Mother said, call Irma Dumas and ask her how you start in business. And I can remember to this day standing there calling her, my knees shaking, and I told her who I was. She didn't know who I was. And I said, thinking about starting a flag company, tell me about owning your own business. And I could not tell you what she said to this day, but it was encouraging. and I don't know. Mother said, okay, you've done everything right.
You've done your market research.
You've done your market research.
Yeah.
You've showed your willingness to face your fears. She said she'd done the research. She said it takes $50 to start a business, and today it takes $150. People, if you want to start a business, it takes $150. You got to go buy a city permit for $150, and that's it. Back then, it took $50. She said, good. She took me down. We got a city permit. You get a tax ID number. She said, you pick out a name, and I said, I'm going to be available Flag and Banner Company, because flags were hard to find and not very available. Ooh. And she said, honey, none of my children, my daughter's not going to be available anything. I was just thinking, back then you had to be at the A's.
Oh, yeah.
You had to be in numerical or whatever, the alphabetical. So you wanted to be at the top of the A's in the phone book. And she said, how about Arkansas? I said, okay.
That's awesome.
That's so funny.
It would never have occurred to me to protest the available. It just didn't pop into my head, but a mom would.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
yeah. No.
Yeah. Wow. So the Betsy Ross thing was door to door, and now suddenly you've decided, I want to have an actual business.
I was door to door for 9 years. And when my daughter was born, well, actually for 5 years. When my daughter was born, I moved it into my house, and it was, and we did it telephone sales.
Oh, yeah.
Because they deregulated the telephone system, and Ma Bell was being deregulated, so phones got cheap, and you could put them in your house. And so I bought an 800 number back then, and it called the 7 states around Arkansas. There are 7 states that touch Arkansas. Did y'all know that? 6 states touch Arkansas.
I was going to say, yeah.
There are 6 states. I didn't know that. So when you bought 800 numbers, you bought them in rings, and they got more expensive as they go out.
Oh, okay.
And so I bought the first ring I could afford, and then advertised in the Yellow Pages in all of those places. It was like a huge marketing gamble, like the first one I ever did, and it paid off.
Wow, sure did.
And then came out the Lillian Vernon catalog. Does anybody remember those?
I do remember those.
Well, all of a sudden, Lillian Vernon has changed everything because data started becoming Axiom and all of that. People started learning about data and the power of data, and mail orders started becoming a big thing. And I kept getting these Lillian Vernon catalogs in the mail, and I said, well, I'm going to start mailing catalogs. So I ended up making a catalog and went from telemarketing to catalog sales. And in 1995, I was at UALR doing one of their business seminars that they do, which I think everybody should do. If you ever get a chance to do anything at their Small Business Development Center, they're just a wealth of information if you're starting off, teach how to read income statements and financial statements and stuff. And I'm at one of those seminars, and I'm sitting at a round table with this girl, and I hear and they're talking about this newfangled thing called the internet. Mm-hmm. It's 1995, and that just happens to be at my round table is Marla Johnson, the head of Aristotle.
Oh, God, perfect.
And I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? And then she said, so I become friends with Marla, and she says, we can't call you Arkansas Flag and Banner. That's too much to type for an URL. An address, an internet
URL,
address. Yeah. So she says, how about flag-banner? So Marla's very first flagandbanner.com was flag-banner.com. And then when I talk on the phone, I'd go flag-banner. Everybody's like, D-A-S-H. I was like, no, that's no good. Yeah. So I called up Marla, and she bought me Flag and Banner. But we probably still have flag-banner.com.
We do. I'm 90% sure, yeah.
And, of course, we bought Arkansas Flag and Banner just for...
Mm-hmm. Now you can type it in, and yeah.
but it's too hard to write, and plus nobody knows how to spell it.
No, nobody knows how to spell Arkansas.
No.
Arkansas.
Arkansas.
That's almost the way you have to say it
Oh,
so
yeah.
they know how to
Yeah,
spell it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, the growth from that pattern that you just described, and then finally the internet, and then finally the realization, my God, I need more space. What's this old building in downtown Little Rock? And next up on the show, the acquisition of Taborian Hall from Kerry McCoy. You're listening to Up in Your Business, and we will be back after a short break.
If you liked this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the picture of Kerry's face in the center of the screen. For more of Kerry's interviews, click either video on the right of the screen. And as always, thank you for watching.